This is RTV6 News at 5:30, working for you.
Now at 5:30, a mother is sharing her story about a police impersonation case in Kokomo. We're also talking to the man accused of the crime. And Notre Dame bows out of a very high-profile event leading up to the November election. The reasons behind the decision. Dan.
Here's what's going on in today's lineup. The pandemic is driving down the cost of CBD products. We're checking in on the efforts to ensure the quality of these items. And parents are facing a lot of questions about how they'll keep working if their kids can't be in school. We're looking at what your rights are. And the masks many of us are wearing are making facial recognition less accurate. What this could mean for the technology going forward.
First at 5:30, though, we are getting more insight into a case of an alleged police impersonator in Kokomo. Tonight, we are hearing from the alleged victims and the man accused of pulling them over. Jackie Collins and Sammy Irwin were driving on US 931 in Howard County on July 12th when they say a black Dodge Dart pulled behind them and activated his yellow lights. Jackie says the car pulled them over a second time after they pulled away. She says the suspect, Trevor Bontrager, cussed at them. Bontrager is charged with impersonating a public servant. He works for a roadside assistance organization called Guardian Angel Assistance and says the couple gestured at him, so he thought they needed help.
I go past them, they yell something at me. I cannot make it out because I'm jamming, so I turn my music down and I kind of slow down and I look back and I'm trying to figure out if they need help, why they were going slow, whatever.
At the very first, I thought, maybe he needs something, maybe there's something hanging from our car. There's a reason why he's pulling us over. And then, to be approached by someone who says, "What's your problem?" with explicit language, that immediately turns what could have just been a misunderstanding into a potentially violent situation.
We also talked with Alan Edwards, the director and founder of Guardian Angel Assistance, who says his employee is innocent until proven guilty. He says Bontrager is on administrative leave and is not going out on calls until the situation can get sorted out. Police officers located handcuffs, a shotgun, and a pellet gun inside the vehicle. But Edwards says the handcuffs are for novelty purposes. The airport in Kokomo is one of more than 150 airports across the country receiving federal grants to make safety and infrastructure improvements. Transportation Security Elaine Chao announced today that the Trump administration will give out more than $273 million in grants from the Airport Improvement Program and CARES Act. The Kokomo Municipal Airport is slated to receive more than $2.7 million to improve the runway and runway lighting. Kevin, that's a nice shot outside.
Ah, how beautiful is it? I give it about a 9 on the scale. You always have to save room for improvement, but it's really the triple change of temperature, humidity, and we traded sunshine today for yesterday's storms. I think that was a good move, and I heard some chainsaws around during the day today. A lot of people still in cleanup mode, especially in Hendricks and western portions of Marion County because of the storms. The dew point. That's the temperature you have to cool the air to for it to become saturated, and the larger the gap between the actual temperature and the dew point, the drier the air. So what I'm getting at, today's dew point's much different than yesterday, about 10 degrees cooler. Actual temperatures in the mid-80s, but because it's not as humid, it doesn't feel as warm as yesterday. Temperatures, they're going to drop into the 70s here after sunset and eventually into the low to mid-60s by morning. Lots of sunshine again tomorrow. Temperatures do start to warm up rather quickly. We'll be at 8 a.m. We'll be at 80 degrees at 11 a.m. Started to get my time and temperature mixed up there. We'll talk about where we end up in the afternoon and what's unique in the 7-day forecast coming up.
For the first time in more than a year, Attorney General William Barr has testified before Congress. Democrats claim the Justice Department has been politicized under Barr's leadership and accused him of turning a blind eye to necessary police reforms. Barr testified rioters have hijacked protests sparked by George Floyd's death and defended the deployment of federal agents to Portland.
The U.S. Marshals have a duty to stop that and defend the courthouse, and that's what we are doing in Portland. We are at the courthouse defending the courthouse. We're not out looking for trouble.
Barr also defended his intervention in criminal cases that have come out of the Russia investigation. That includes the decision to drop the prosecution of Michael Flynn and pushing for a lenient sentence for Roger Stone. In our ongoing looks at safely getting back to school, there are things to consider other than physical safety from the virus.
We're recognizing that our children may not all be mentally or socially prepared to really be back in the throes of that full academic rigor that they're used to having.
Dr. Larry Mittenall is a child psychiatrist and medical expert with the American Heart Association. He recognizes sending a child back to school in person or virtually is going to be based on family dynamics and several factors. But a solid strategy to get them mentally prepared for either is resetting foundational routines and schedules, focusing on and when kids are eating, sleep times, and their physical activity. For young children who might be excited about seeing friends and teachers, talk about safe ways to show affection.
Maybe talking with your child and having your child maybe come up with ideas as well around what are neat, fun, interesting ways that we can still be close and greet one another, but that also don't put, one another at risk.
Plant the seed now and practice things like wearing a mask and frequent hand washing. And if they do go back to class, don't worry right away if they start complaining of various physical issues.
The ways that kids can sometimes let us know that they're, struggling with worry or struggling with anxiety is that sometimes they show us in their bodies. So they might, say things like, I'm having a headache or experiencing, my heart's racing or butterflies in my stomach.
Dr. Mittenall says those reactions are natural ways for kids to cope with transition or the unknown. Still ahead in today's lineup, the pandemic is impacting CBD products. A look at the new steps being taken to make sure you're getting what you actually pay for.
Now to Democracy 2020 in the race for president. The University of Notre Dame has withdrawn as host site for the first presidential debate amid the coronavirus pandemic. The debate had been set for September 29th in South Bend, but in a statement released yesterday, University President Reverend John Jenkins said the decision was made because the necessary health precautions would have greatly diminished the educational value of hosting the debate. And the first debate will now be co-hosted by Case Western Reserve University and Cleveland Clinic in Cleveland. And tonight, the life of Notre Dame grad and TV legend Regis Philbin will be celebrated in an ABC primetime special. Regis Philbin, the Morning Maestro, airs at 8 here on ABC and WRTV6. Philbin's funeral will take place at Notre Dame, and that is also where he will be buried.
CBD products are getting cheaper. CBD is the non-psychoactive cannabis compound marketed for health and wellness benefits. New research from the Brightfield Group shows price wars, increased supply, and the pandemic are all driving down costs. Sales have recently gone up as well. Brightfield expects it to hit $4.75 billion this year. Analysts say prices will likely still stay steady. And since the boom in CBD following the 2018 Farm Bill, there hasn't been much regulation in the industry. Now, researchers with the National Institute of Standards and Technology are working to help labs accurately measure components of hemp, marijuana, and other cannabis products.
There's so many ramifications that could come from this in the future on the measurements being done that we need to everybody needs to be able to show that they can accurately measure THC or CBD or any type of analyte that is important.
Walter Brent Wilson is part of the team working to develop a cannabis quality assurance program and reference material. He says right now, farmers may send cannabis samples to 3 different labs and get 3 different THC measurements. That's a problem because the amount of THC determines what farmers legally can do with their product. If it's below 0.3%, it's hemp. Above 0.3% is considered marijuana. For consumers, Wilson says the biggest issue is being able to trust what's on the label.
If it says that it's hemp and not marijuana, you want to be able to believe it actually is hemp. And then if it's telling you you're getting a certain dosage of CBD because a lot of times they'll say you get a certain amount per 1 milliliter on the bottle. You want to be able to have confidence that is the amount of CBD you're getting from the product.
Wilson says the team's goal isn't necessarily to make the program a requirement for labs, just to make it available to them. He expects the study to go on for several years. More to get into in our lineup. Parents are facing a lot of uncertainty about work as we head into the new school year with COVID-19. We're looking at your rights at work when it comes to the virus, as well as child care. Uncertainty has ruled the COVID pandemic. Uncertainty with income, jobs, the future. Now there's uncertainty for schools if teachers get sick, and what will happen if there's not a substitute to take over the class. As a mother of 4, Catherine Barrett has found herself at a crossroads.
There's just a lot of unknown right now for substitutes. One
that pits her love for her career as a substitute teacher in Florida against the safety of herself and her family.
I love my job. I know a lot of substitutes say it's not worth the money to go back. We make just above minimum wage.
Right now, it is a crossroads being navigated by countless substitute teachers nationwide as they try to get back into the classroom. And it has the potential to worsen a problem that has been growing since well before the pandemic.
It's a mathematical certainty. We are going to be opening up schools without enough teachers.
Nicola Suarez is president of Kelly Education, a substitute teacher recruiting firm. In the mid-2000s, the group says 10% of incoming college freshmen were pursuing a degree in education. Today, that number has dropped by more than half to 4.5%. Add in the fact that many substitute teachers are older retirees. They might choose not to come back because of the health risks. It's one of many reasons why Kelly Education estimates teacher vacancy rates will increase by 50% and the need for subs will rise by more than 70%.
We've been working around the clock, even since early spring, anticipating what that demand is going to be. And I think that probably every single school district are going to require substitute teachers.
To incentivize substitute teachers, states have adjusted. In Iowa, the governor suspended the limit on how long a sub can teach a certain class and decreased the minimum age requirement from 21 to 20, hoping furloughed workers and recent grads may look to subbing as an alternative.
What if I get sick? I don't have any medical insurance through Kelly Services. So am I going to be on my own for 14 days while I'm out quarantining?
Only more uncertainty this mother weighs and manages as she decides the future of herself and family.
If you're looking for sunshine today, no problem finding that. If you were looking for thunderstorms, not today. Not tomorrow. We'll wait a little while. Thursday, the most likely time. Okay, Gregory Garden is producing some green beans. You pick from the garden, you rinse and eat. Pick from the garden, rinse and repeat. Eat. So those were pretty good. Just had those a little bit ago as a late day snack right before the news. I got to hit this button here. I'm sure you're sick of looking at that. That's all we've got in the garden, by the way. We've got a few pots with tomatoes in there. 82 in Fort Wayne, 87 down in Evansville. That's your temperature range. Humidity, not at all competitive with yesterday's feel. Most comfortable morning, well, I shouldn't say that because there are many comfortable mornings within the 7-day forecast, and actually the end of next week, temperatures will be in the low 60s as well, so we've got that to look forward to as a nice little stretch of comfortable temperatures. Tomorrow, one exception, we jump into the upper 80s, but the humidity doesn't follow. It won't be too humid, and we remain dry. Turn the page, thunderstorms likely Thursday, mainly in the southern half of the state. Friday, temperature 81. Temperatures down and our rain chance down to 30% as well. As you look at your hourly forecast planner for tomorrow, 82 at noon, 88 the afternoon high temperature. We'll talk about the theme in the 7-day forecast of below average temperatures. We'll do that shortly when we come back.
What happens when your child gets sick and you can't work? What if your child's school shuts down because of a COVID outbreak? These are questions families are struggling with as a new school year approaches. Chris Conti takes a closer look at parents' rights and what you need to head safely back to school.
And the yard's been a godsend.
Okay. The constant back and forth of a summer consumed with COVID.
This has been a summer of popsicles.
Has left Acacia Clark and her 3 boys stuck in a state of uncertainty.
I made a decision early on that I was going to try to keep working, and, it's been mostly leaving them to their own devices.
This realtor and her husband are both still working, but juggling her business and the kids has proven nearly impossible.
My focus, for my work has been abysmal. So I haven't been able to focus. I'll get in, a few minutes here, a few minutes there, but it's very stressful.
As empty classrooms start to fill back up, Acacia and other parents across the country are stuck, wondering what might happen if their kids catch COVID and they can't work. Chris Fuedo is an employment attorney.
If kids can't go back to school, parents can't go back to work full time.
In March, Congress passed the Family's First Coronavirus Response Act. It gives parents 2 weeks of paid sick leave if you find yourself having to quarantine. Parents also get 2 weeks of paid sick leave at 2/3 your regular salary if your child's school or daycare shuts down because of COVID. And it guarantees 10 weeks of leave at 2/3 your salary if you need to take care of a sick child. Those benefits will run out on December 31st. Another big problem facing parents right now, many have already exhausted all of their leave. So if you do find yourself having to ask your boss for more flexibility, the best advice is to have a plan.
Come up with your plan and say, hey, listen, this is the most that I can do for my employer, or this is how I can do everything I need to do for the employer while still being there for my family.
It's more than being stuck between a rock and a hard place. It's just being in a hard place constantly and not even having a light at the end of the tunnel.
And with a new school year on the horizon, Acacia Clark and parents everywhere are trying to manage whatever the pandemic throws their way.
This is a new normal for years to come.
I'm Chris Conti reporting.
It's important to know that under the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, it's illegal to fire someone because they need to take care of their family due to COVID. On our website right now, we have more advice on how to have some of those difficult conversations with your boss if your family gets sick. Just look for this story in the Rebound section. And tens of thousands of people who have tested positive for COVID-19 have received convalescent plasma as a way to try and help fight the virus. The plasma comes from coronavirus patients who have recovered. That emergency supply is now running out. The American Red Cross says the demand for this plasma has more than doubled over the past month. It's distributing that plasma faster than donations are coming in. Franklin Miles, who lives in Ohio, is one of those donors. He learned about donating his plasma from a news story when he was in the hospital being treated for COVID-19. He says he didn't know if he'd survive.
It's rewarding. To be, one of the catalysts that kind of has had it, recovered from it, and can help, whether it's one or 50 people or 100 people, but it can help other people recover from it too.
He had to wait 28 days after he recovered from COVID-19 to donate. He says the process is similar to donating blood and takes about an hour. He's donated 3 times already. His last donation went to someone in Arizona. Miles plans to keep doing it every 28 days until they tell him he doesn't have antibodies. The Red Cross says each donation has the potential to help up to 3 patients. The blood bank at Johns Hopkins says so far they're seeing that convalescent plasma is very safe. Patients who have COVID-19 are able to tolerate getting it without significant side effects.
We don't have an ability to manufacture convalescent plasma in a laboratory. As advanced as our laboratories are, there's no way for us to take ingredients and end up with a manufacturing process that leads to a unit of convalescent plasma to give to somebody who is sick with COVID-19.
Doctors are still studying how effective the plasma is. Right now, it seems like the earlier that patients get it, the more likely they are to have a positive outcome. If you've recovered from COVID-19 and want to donate your plasma, you can find information about where to do it at thefightisinus.org. Finally, in our lineup, facial recognition technology is already controversial. Now we're learning the masks we're wearing is making it a lot less accurate. What this could mean for the technology going forward. Wearing a face mask has practically become second nature, and now different agencies are taking that into account when using facial recognition software. In China, facial recognition is being used on smartphones that can detect people's contagion risk. In Russia, facial recognition is being used to track people who are violating quarantine orders. Now, some are asking whether face masks makes it more difficult for this software to be used. The short answer is no. Computer science experts say face coverings and other accessories may act as a speed bump, but it won't be very difficult for the software to be modified. However, with a face covering, the recognition may be less accurate.
It has fewer data points, and that's the concern. And so because you're essentially removing your nose and your mouth from the equation, if you will, then there are fewer data points. And the concern would be is that other people could then, authenticate as you.
Before the use of face masks, facial recognition software had a rate of inaccuracy of less than 1%, meaning it was right most of the time. Now, the National Institute of Standards and Technology estimates that inaccuracy has gone up to between 5 and 20%.
It's not a surprise, right? So we train these things on our, if you will, normal faces. And now all of a sudden, many of the features on our faces have been removed by the face mask.
Even before the pandemic started, researchers have been looking into how to use ears and even walking patterns to recognize people. But those recognition methods also come with possible problems. This summer, we've been hearing the terms microschooling or pods. It's when parents band together to educate their kids in small groups. Tomorrow, what parents say are the keys to success and how they suggest you can start one in your neighborhood.
Well, I want to switch seasons for a second to bring you a little bit of breaking news. The Carmel Chris Kindle Market and winter ice skating has been canceled due to the COVID virus. So that's the latest there. Now, back to summer. And with that transition, we're back to thunderstorms Thursday, Friday and Saturday. The chance for rain is low. The temperature trend right on through the weekend below average temperatures, so in the low 80s.